what your country can do.
Kennedy has been shot.
It is to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
In 2008, America stood at a crossroads. The country was reeling from the deepest economic crisis in generations. 2 long wars drained resources and morale. Distrust in government ran high, and into the uncertainty stepped the candidate who spoke not only of change, but of hope, Barack Obama. On November 4th, 2008, millions witnessed history. The election of Barack Obama marked a new chapter. But with the euphoria came immense challenges, economic collapse and a fractured political landscape, and 2 ongoing wars in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Told by lines that stretched around schools and churches in numbers this nation has never seen. By people who waited 3 hours and 4 hours, many for the first time in their lives.
The economic collapse, triggered by the housing market crash and risky financial practices, devastated millions of Americans. Unemployment soared.
6% right now, Google about 3%, but Dell, Intel, Research Motion, and Microsoft are all to the upside. Look how strong.
Did not disappoint. 400 points higher. Yes, indeed. The markets roar higher. Last 30 minutes of trading as volatility once again rules the day.
Most of the text this morning.
Obama inherited a nearly catastrophic economic crisis. The stimulus package was $787 billion and was an effort to jumpstart growth. It was designed to save jobs and stabilize the market. It was a politically risky move, though, met with fierce opposition from some quarters.
Another defining moment came in 2010, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. After decades of debate, it aimed to extend healthcare to millions of uninsured Americans. The law ignited fierce debate across the political spectrum, becoming a symbol of both hope and division.
I remember what healthcare was like right before it changed, and it was not easy to access. I went a whole year without healthcare for a while.
Today, hundreds of people took part in a rally outside LA County USC Medical Center to defend what's typically known as Obamacare, after Congress moved closer to repealing the law that expanded coverage to 5 million Californians.
Hey, we will fight for ACA!
The founder of Latinos for Trump says the Republican-controlled Congress isn't trying to take health coverage.
The Affordable Care Act was arguably Obama's most ambitious domestic achievement. It expanded coverage, banned denial of pre-existing conditions, and reshaped healthcare delivery. Yet, it also intensified partition divides that have endured for years.
On May 2nd, 2011, President Obama announced the pivotal victory on the War of Terror, the death of Osama bin Laden. The mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks was finally brought to justice, a moment that was lifted through the nation's spirit.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. It was nearly 10 years ago that a bright September day was darkened by the worst attack on the American people in our history. The images of 9/11 are seared into our national memory. Hijacked planes cutting through a cloudless September sky, the Twin Towers collapsing to the ground, black smoke billowing up from the Pentagon, the wreckage of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the actions of heroic citizens saved even more heartbreak and destruction.
I served in Afghanistan, and hearing about bin Laden's death was surreal. It was a closure for many of us, a signal that sacrifices had meaning, that justice had been served.
Yet, even this triumph was tempered by ongoing conflict, questions about surveillance and civil liberties, and the struggle to bring troops home. Lin-Manuel Miranda and other cultural icons became symbols of a broader social transformation, embracing diversity, female empowerment, and the redefinition of the American dream.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but dad, I amaze and astonish. The problem is I got a lot of brains but no polish. I gotta holler just to be heard with every word. I drop knowledge, I'm a diamond in the rough. A shiny piece of coal, trying to reach my goal. My power of speech, unimpeachable. Only 19, but my mind is older. These New York City streets get cold. I shoulder every burden, every disadvantage. I've learned to manage. I don't have a gun to brandish. I walk these streets famished. The plan is to fan this spark into a flame. But damn, it's getting dark, so let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. Meanwhile, Britain keeps shitting on us endlessly. Essentially, they tax us relentlessly. Then King George turns around, runs a spending spree. He ain't ever gonna set his descendants free. So there will be a revolution in this century. And to me,
he says in parentheses,
don't be shocked when your history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Eventually, you'll see my ascendancy. And I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. It's time to take a shot.
I dream of life without a monarchy. The unrest in France will lead to anarchy. Anarchy, how you say? Anarchy. When I fight, I make the other side panicky with my shot.
Yo, I'm a tailor's apprentice, and I got y'all knuckleheads and local parentis. I'm joining the rebellion, cause I know it's my chance to socially advance. Instead, it's always the pants are gonna take it.
But we'll never be truly free until those in bondage have the same rights as you and me. You and I do or die. Wait till I sally in on a stallion with the first black battalion. Have another shot.
Geniuses, lower your voices. You keep out of trouble and you double your choices. I'm with you, but the situation is fraught. You've got to be carefully taught. If you talk, you're gonna get shot.
Check what we got. Mr. Lafayette, hard rock like Lancelot. I think your pants look hot. Lorenz, I like you a lot. This hatch a plot blacker than the kettle calling the pot. What are the odds the gods would put us all in one spot? Hop in a squad and conventional wisdom, like it or not. A bunch of revolutionary manumission abolitionists. Give me a position, show me where the ammunition is. Oh, am I talking too loud? Sometimes I get overexcited. Shoot off at the mouth. I never had a group of friends before. I promise that I'll make y'all proud.
Let's get this guy in front of a crowd.
I will not throw away my shot. I will not throw away my shot. In the Obama era, culture celebrated empowerment, identity, and change. Music, film, and art gave a voice in a generation shaped by hope and challenge. We were saying, this is our time. Hamilton told the story of America's founding in a way that connected with people of all backgrounds. It's about who we are and who we want to be, something Obama's presidency inspired, a conversation about identity, history, and inclusion.
Barack Obama's presidency was marked not only by policy but by profound social change and cultural shifts. His time in office coincided with movements that challenged long-standing inequities and redefined the nation's identity.
LGBT community, but who embraced it.
I'm here with you in that fight.
Who counted us as friends.
I held some bilateral talks with your leader, Lady Gaga. She was wearing 16-inch heels.
We elected a man who understood our struggles.
I was shocked and saddened by the deaths of several young people who were bullied and taunted for being gay.
And who has pushed the nation forward towards equality.
It is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married. I don't think there's been a single moment in which LGBT issues became important to me. I think it's an accumulation of a lifetime.
When Obama said he supported marriage equality, it gave our movement new momentum. It was like the president was telling the country that love and equality mattered.
At the same time, the nation grappled with issues of racial injustice. The deaths of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and others sparked outrage and a new civil rights movement, the Black Lives Matter.
It was the case that for many summed up the dysfunction of America's gun laws and depth of its racial divide. Trayvon Martin, 17, African-American, unarmed, was shot as he walked through the Florida gated community in which he was staying. The acquittal of George Zimmerman, the head of the community's neighborhood watch, who'd claimed self-defense, caused uproar.
Shut it down! Zimmerman's free! Shut it down!
The verdict sparked nationwide protests, and at the forefront of those, always Trayvon's parents, Tracy Martin and Sabrina Fulton.
Obama's election was historic, but it also exposed deep racial tensions. While progress was made, systemic inequities remained, and political backlash grew, fueling polarization.
Immigration was another defining issue. In 2012, the Obama administration enacted DACA, protecting hundreds of thousands of young, undocumented immigrants, a policy hailed by supporters but opposed by critics.
We are people! We are not illegal now!
Several dozen turned out at New Jersey City University to support so-called dreamers, undocumented children brought to the U.S. by their parents and granted temporary permits by President Obama to work or go to school here. 17-year-old Erica Martinez arrived in New Jersey from El Salvador when she was only 2. She has younger siblings who were born here and fears DACA will be revoked by President Trump.
They are my family. I love them so much. And I guess that's what gives me hope. I don't want to be torn away from my family. So that's why I keep fighting for DACA.
DACA gave me a chance to live without fear. I could go to work, to school, and contribute without constantly worrying about deportation. It felt like finally being seen.
Obama's progressive social policies energized his base, but also galvanized opposition. The Tea Party movement and Republican resistance led to gridlock in Congress, making governance increasingly difficult.
With all of this money, you know, when Bill Clinton came back from the '94 loss, in '95 he started running ads, beginning his presidential campaign. It feels almost like these outside groups might start in on the president beginning 2012. Very soon into after this election. Do you think that's going to happen, that we're going to be in a kind of a permanent campaign that will go from this one in 2010 all ready to begin 2012?
I think we're certainly in a permanent campaign. But I would add that I'm not going to sit here and maintain that the Democrats are taking a shellacking because of a money disadvantage. I don't think that's the case. At the end of the day, I give the American people more credit. I think that they were reacting to disappointment over how the economy has stalled. And, you know, I know the Republican argument is, well, they're against Obamacare and all this stuff. I happen to think that it is a tad wrong.
The 2010 midterms saw a conservative surge that limited Obama's legislative agenda and deepened partisan divides, setting the stage for intense political battles to come.
That mission was years in the making. For the intelligence community, it was closure, proof that persistence could lead to justice, but it also raised questions about future counterterrorism efforts.
As Obama sought to end wars, new conflicts arose. The violent emergence of ISIS in Iraq and Syria challenged the stability of the region and the world. The administration responded with targeted airstrikes and support for local forces, a new model of military engagement.
O opatřeních k dalšímu snížení a omezení strategických útočných zbraní a protokol o smlouvě.
Президент Российской Федерации. Президент Соединенных Штатов Америки Барак Обама подписывают договор между Российской Федерацией и Соединенными Штатами Америки о мерах по дальнейшему сокращению стратегических наступательных вооружений и протокол к нему.
The President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, and the President of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, are signing the treaty between the United States of America and the Russian Federation on measures for the further reduction and limitation of strategic offensive arms and the protocol to it.
Obama's foreign policy was marked by a reluctance for prolonged ground wars, preferring multilateral approaches and limited interventions. This strategy drew both praise and criticism, seen by some as prudent, but others as indecisive.
As Barack Obama assumed his presidency in 2009, the world faced numerous challenges. From wars in the Middle East to climate change, nuclear proliferation, and emerging global powers, the Obama administration foreign policy was marked by a series of historic decisions that sought to balance ideals, reflecting the complex realities of a rapidly changing world.
Last year, I announced the end to our combat mission in Iraq, and to date, we've removed more than 100,000 troops. Iraqis have taken full responsibility for their country's security. A few hours ago, I spoke with Iraqi Prime Minister Maliki. I reaffirmed that the United States keeps its commitments. He spoke of the determination of the Iraqi people to forge their own future. We are in full agreement about how to move forward. So, today, I can report that, as promised, the rest of our troops in Iraq will come home by the end of the year. After nearly 9 years, America's war in Iraq will be over. Over the next 2 months, our troops in Iraq, tens of thousands of them, will pack up their gear and board convoys for the journey home. The last American soldier will cross the border out of Iraq with their heads held high, proud of their success, and knowing that the American people stand united in our support for our troops. That is how America's military efforts in Iraq will end. But even as we mark this important milestone, we're also moving into a new phase in the relationship between the United States and Iraq. As of January 1st, and in keeping with our strategic framework agreement with Iraq, it will be a normal relationship between sovereign nations, an equal partnership based on mutual interests and mutual respect. In today's conversation, Prime Minister Maliki and I agreed that a meeting of the Higher Coordinating Committee of the Strategic Framework Agreement will convene in the coming weeks. And I invited the Prime Minister to come to the White House in December as we plan for all the important work that we have to do together.
The war brought suffering to many families. When the troops finally left, it was a mix of relief and fear. The streets were quieter, but there was uncertainty. Which groups would control power, and how would our country heal?
On the diplomatic front, Obama sought to reduce nuclear arms and rebuild strained relations with Russia. The New START treaty, signed in 2010, was a milestone in arms control, aiming to limit strategic nuclear weapons and promote transparency.
So I'm not gonna say anything about football while I'm here, because I know this is a sensitive subject. This is why I have Secret Service along. Now, I want to start by acknowledging some of the folks who are with me here today. First of all, I want to thank one of our finest public servants in this country. And she is just a great friend, but somebody who cares passionately about the health and the welfare of our kids and our families. Kathleen Sebelius, our Secretary of Health and Human Services. I want to acknowledge the mayor of Yeadon, Dolores Jones Butler is in the house. Two of my favorite members of Congress, Shaka Fattah and Bob Brady. And one of my favorite former members of Congress, who I think is going to be doing big things here in Pennsylvania, is here as well. I guess I can't call you Congressman. That's all right? The Congressman Murphy. I had a chance to say hello to Mayor Nutter when I landed in Philly. He couldn't be with us this morning. I guess there are a few things going on here today. But I wished him well. He's a great partner of ours. And I also want to say thank you to Ms. Plaisant, Dr. O'Shea, all the staff and the teachers who are here. They are just doing a great job. I had a chance to visit one of the classrooms here, and I have to say it got me a little choked up, because Patrick, you need to remember this, Patrick's got small kids, And they are just so huggable at this age. And now they're still huggable, but they're 5'9" and 5 feet.
The New START Treaty was a rare moment of cooperation in an often tense relationship. It showed Obama's commitment to diplomacy and arms reduction and pillars of global security.
Perhaps no event symbolized Obama's diplomatic shift more than his 2015 visit to Cuba. The first by a sitting American president since 1928, this visit marked the thawing of Cold War hostilities, reopening embassies, and expanding travel and trade.
Now to that other big headline this morning. President Obama making history, becoming the first U.S. president in nearly 90 years to step foot on Cuban soil. He'll meet with Raul Castro later this morning as the country faces protests over human rights. Dozens arrested just hours before President Obama landed on Sunday. And he spoke exclusively with World News Tonight anchor David Muir, who's there in Havana right now for us. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Robin. History made here in Cuba. Not since Calvin Coolidge has a U.S. president visited Cuba. But as you point out, this visit does not come without controversy. A little more than a year ago, I asked the president, would he be visiting Cuba? He said, let's wait and see. But shortly after landing right here in Havana, he explained to me why the time is right. The president and first lady and their daughters coming off Air Force One in Havana, Cuba. For decades, an image unimaginable. And just a short time after touching down, our interview with the president. Mr. President, we're meeting Cuba.
How about that?
How about that? You know, as you're well aware, when we spoke last time, a little more than a year ago, I asked if you'd be visiting Cuba before the end of your presidency. And you said, let's see how things evolve.
Right.
So why now?
The time is right. Obviously, our intention has always been to get a ball rolling, knowing that change wasn't going to happen overnight. But what we have already seen is the reopening of the embassy. And although we still have significant differences around human rights and individual liberties inside of Cuba, we felt that coming now would maximize our ability to prompt more change.
But you've often said when you visit countries around the world that they put a fresh coat of paint up, they spruce the place up.
Absolutely.
Is there any concern that Cuba is doing that here? What are you looking for proof that there's been progress?
I think that there's no doubt that the Cuban government is still a one-party state that is exerting control and is stifling dissent.
But the president argues he's already seen Cuban entrepreneurs blossom. You hear from a lot of American businesses, though, who say if we don't lift this embargo, other countries are going to get in there and get the deals.
Well, there's no doubt that we still have some work to do, and part of that is bringing an end to the embargo that isn't currently in place.
Does that happen during your presidency?
It may not happen between now and then, particularly since we're in an election year, but it is inevitable.
When you look out across Havana, you see the young people all gathered on street corners to borrow the Wi-Fi. I mean, fewer than 5% of the homes here in Cuba have access to the internet.
Right. Well, that's part of why some of these changes can be so significant. And one of the things that we'll be announcing here is that Google has a deal to start setting up more Wi-Fi access and broadband access on the island.
How quickly, though, does that change a country? When you go from 5% internet access in people's homes to suddenly having access to the World Wide Web?
Well, you know, change is going to happen here. And I think that Raul Castro understands that.
The president telling us change is going to happen here, and he'll be meeting with President Raul Castro a little later today in a private meeting. He says he'll be very open with him about his critique of human rights, saying it needs to get better here, and the freedoms of ordinary Cubans. And Robin will sit down with the president again right after that meeting.
We're looking forward to that. But you referred to him meeting with Raul Castro later today. He did not greet the Cuban president, did not greet President Obama at the airport, and many critics are making note of that, David.
For decades, families were separated and opportunities lost. Obama's visit was hope for a new chapter, not just politically, but personally for so many Cuban and Cuban Americans. In a world of shifting alliances and emerging threats, Barack Obama's foreign policy legacy is one of cautious engagement, bold diplomacy, and navigating the uncertain terrain of the 21st century global leadership.